I would say I'm a person of faith. So shout out to God for just walking me through that process and able to sustain me because it was a little bit nerve wracking when you think you're going to have something in hand at a company that you really want to work at and then you end up not getting anything. So that was just a little bit of story of something I faced that I really had to be resilient in the moment when I thought I was going to be getting a job offer.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Faronbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where I talk to incredible people doing incredible things so we can become the most incredible versions of ourselves. First off, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I also want you to know that you can also watch this episode on YouTube. Whether you're listening or watch this episode, thank you so much for your support. Stick around if you like free things. There's a key word that I've been doing since the beginning of the year in the solo episodes where you can get free merch. If you don't want to wait to pick up the free merch in the drawing from getting the keyword, you can go to IncrediPaul.org and go to the merch store and get the free merch there. You can also pick up the Be Incredible Starter Pack as well. Free resources so you can continue to be incredible. That was a quick commercial. I want to dive right into this episode. And today I am talking about resilience. Resilience is critical in the world that we live in. So many things are constantly happening, and how to develop resilience and showcase resilience is what I want to talk about in this episode. I want to share a story from my background, specifically more on the career side. There's definitely some stuff on the personal side I can talk about. I'll talk about more in a part 2 on the personal side, but this side is more on the professional side. And I actually do a talk on resilience. I haven't given it in a little bit, and this is kind of bringing it back up so I can do it more this year. I've done it in the last maybe 4 or 5 years now I've been doing it. And I've refined it, talk about newer stories. This is an older story, but I think one that's really going to be relevant to the audience, especially if you're Gen Z, you're in the middle of trying to get your new job or get an internship. I think this will definitely resonate with you. Even if you're not in that realm, I think it still will because it's very much in the professional space. So when I talk about resilience, I have an acrostic I use and it spells out rest. So REST. And there's a phrase, a sentence for each of those to talk about how to develop resilience. So I will dive into that. Before I get into that, I will not share what it is yet. So I'll keep you in suspense a little bit, but let me share a story and demonstrate that. And then I'll come back, talk about what rest is and how that helps you build resilience, and then share the keyword. And then you can get some free merch if you want free merch. So some background for this story is that I interned at Nestle USA over the summer. So this was in Jonesboro, Arkansas, frozen food facility. Had a blast there. First time working in consumer packaged goods. And from that experience, knew that was something I wanted to do. So before that, I had done a co-op at Cargill, and it was a really great experience, but it was more on on the customer side, like Nestle or some of these other consumer packaged goods would have been a customer of the Cargill. And I knew I wanted something a little bit different. And the experiences I got working on Stouffer's and Lean Cuisine brand and able to go in the stores and see it, like that was amazing. Also, it smelled really good as well, making the lasagnas, different pastas, also the frozen pizzas, panini bread, all the different things. So it was a really great experience. This particular situation, and I would say I don't have anything negative to say about Nestle, just right off the bat, I'll preface that. But this situation, I had interned there, and I think there were about 40 different interns around the country. And with some of the restructuring that was going on for this program, it actually was a 5-year program, rotational program, get into leadership, and they only had 20 spots. So normally they would be able to bring all the interns back. This time they only had 20 spots. And in this case, I was not given an opportunity to come back full time with Nestle. And so this was interesting to me because I had gotten good feedback from my managers. We do end of summer reviews, kind of similar to what you do in a full-time role, PDP, performance evaluation. I had different projects and things I was supposed to do. I had done all my projects, completed them. I actually had asked for more projects because that's just the type of person I am. I wanted to do more things, and I had got most of that stuff completed as well. Some of the things I had asked for, it was like a larger scale project that they're going to be doing over the next year, but I was able to knock out a lot of that stuff in the 3 months I was there. 13 to 14 weeks, I think, was actually what it was. And so how the rating system works is they grade you on the what and the how. And so whether it's like meets expectation, exceeds expectations, below expectations, so like 1, 2, 3. And so on the what, they're like, you did exactly what you needed to do. And so it'll give you meets expectation at 2. And then on the how, they gave me a 3, exceeds expectation. So based on that, I was like, I did great. I must be getting an offer. But based on some other conversations I heard later on, I guess other interns got a 3 or exceeds expectation overall. And then also later found out that through a different set of circumstances I won't talk about in this time, they did not think that I was going to accept the offer. I had looked at some other opportunities within the broader Nestle community, and they weren't sure I was going to accept this offer. So that's a kind of funny story I found out years later, not even at this point. And so I was faced with having to find a full-time opportunity. So for context, I was someone that did a co-op and took a semester off of school. So this summer that I was working back in summer of 2016 was actually the summer between my senior year. So I was graduating December of 2016. So I was more on a time crunch because obviously I wanted to start working right away. And I didn't have, like, a lot of times if you graduate in the spring, you have that whole school year. I just had a semester. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. I had to make sure my resume was up to date, all the stuff I had done at Nestle. I also had to work on my interview skills, talk to different companies, apply, all the different things. Beside the fact, coming out of internship, I was expecting that I was going to get an offer. Did not get the offer, had to go through the process. Fortunately, there was a career fair coming, and I was able to land interviews at the career fair, go through the process, and then got a job offer by mid-October. So I would say I'm a person of faith. So shout out to God for just walking me through that process and able to sustain me, because it was a little bit nerve-wracking when you think you're going to have something in hand at a company that you really want to work at, and then you end up not getting anything. So that was just a little bit of a story of something I faced, that I really had to be resilient in the moment when I thought I was going to be getting a job offer. The circumstances kind of led itself to think that, and I didn't end up getting it. So the framework that I'm talking about, and this is condensed because I had a longer one based on the word resilience, but for this episode and what I'm trying to see if this works out, is to have one based on the word rest. So that's the acrostic I'm using, rest, talking about how to develop resilience. And the first letter, rest, is R, and that is realizing that rejection and failure is inevitable. So our rejection and failure is inevitable. So you talk about, Paul, like, why is that even a thing? Why is that the first thing you have to talk about when it talks to resilience? The main thing with resilience and really anything is understanding what is happening, putting a name to it. I've talked about that on the podcast before, but understanding that rejection and failure is inevitable, something that's going to happen. We focus on our successes. We focus on doing everything well. We don't always think about failures and rejection, and it can become a huge obstacle, something that seems insurmountable. If you've gone your whole life, nothing bad has ever happened, you've always succeeded, it can feel like the whole world is against you in that moment. So the first step to developing resilience is understanding that rejection and failure is inevitable. It's going to happen. If it hasn't happened to you yet, congratulations. What's waiting for you is rejection or failure at some point. That's the first thing. The next thing is, after the rejection or failure happens, evaluate the experience. So like in my situation, I wasn't expecting that to happen, but in the previous year, I had this experience where I had a co-op. I thought I was going to have an internship. It didn't happen. So this was not my first experience with rejection or failure. I already built that. Maybe if you've never experienced it, just understanding that it's going to happen is something that you need to know. It's going to happen, probably at the least opportune time. But remember this episode, remember this conversation, and know that it's going to happen at some time. Be prepared. The next one is to evaluate the experience. So what exactly happened that caused this rejection or failure? Sometimes it's stuff that's within your control. Other times it's stuff that you cannot control. Like I mentioned, I had done a good job as far as the ratings were concerned, and I got back at least about the what and the how. But what I didn't do well was articulating the fact that I wanted to come back and work for this company. Like I said, like I had expressed some interest in other parts of the business, and this was a really competitive program. And I wanted to make sure that whoever was joining it was someone that was fully bought in and was going to stay for the 5 years. And they've since kind of changed it and rebranded it. It's not 5 years anymore. But that was a key thing I learned, is that I need to make sure I am articulating my excitement and what I want to see in the program. So as I was going through interviewing and talking to different companies, doing the research about them, really understanding what these early career opportunities look like, and expressing excitement as much as I could, not in a fake way, but just saying like, oh, I'm a new grad. I want a job, and just talking about the things about this job that really resonate with me. So the other thing is seeking out a new plan, how to go about doing all of this. So I mentioned going to a career fair. I was applying online. I was networking, really trying to figure out all the different opportunities I could do. It could have been really easy for me when this happened, because this happened towards the middle of August. Internship ended, and then September school started, and then I found out then, and then career fair and stuff were in September as well. So I had to regroup pretty quickly. I couldn't just sit back and sulk and say like, oh, I thought I was going to have this opportunity. I'm not getting it. If I wanted a job by the time I was graduating, I needed to get on things now. So that was the resilience piece. So regroup, made sure I had everything prepared for the opportunity, and then trying new approaches. For me, I was super intentional, like I mentioned, about sharing my passion for the food industry specifically, talk about working on stuff that I actually see in stores. And this is still the same till this day. So I need to be more intentional about talking about this. I still work full-time as an engineer, in addition to stuff I do with podcasting and speaking. I always, anytime I'm in the grocery store, go to the aisle where the products I work on are there and take a look at it, and just have pride in the stuff that I do. Whether it's stuff that on the team I specifically work on or other teams I work on, but what my company makes, I have pride in it. And so that was something I was able to articulate. So that was a little bit more condensed. Like I mentioned, I have a longer talk on resilience that really dives deeper into different things. And this was a kind of a shorter story, more on the professional side, on the internship, on the full-time side. I have another story that I've kind of mentioned around on the personal side, that I was married before and not married anymore. And that was a masterclass in resilience. So at some point, I think next month, I will dive a little bit deeper on that, because there were things that I had learned up until that point that helped me be more resilient in this case, because I was not expecting my marriage to end, especially with the way that it did. But I was able to learn from the different things and get better and not bitter from the different situations that I was faced with. So let's dive into the fun fact, because if you want free merch, this is the way to do it. So the fun fact for me is that I actually worked my first full-time opportunity for less time than the internship I had the previous summer. So I mentioned I interned with Nestle USA previous summer for, I think it was 12 to 14 weeks, somewhere around there. The full-time opportunity I had, I was there for 10 weeks, so 2.5 months. And not to say that anything bad about the company, but it was just the fact that it wasn't where I wanted. I knew I wanted to be longer term. I wanted to work for a larger international company. And this was a billion-dollar company as well. So it wasn't a small company by any means. And then it was also in a smaller town. But the thing is, despite that, I was still able to build good relationships in the short time I was there. So much so that when I put in my 2 weeks, that they told me if things didn't work out where I was going, I was welcome to come back after just 10 weeks. So I can share more about that at another point if you all are interested. But the key word for today is intern. So if you stuck with it to the end of this episode, talk about resilience, keyword is intern. Subscribe to the newsletter or the Be Incredible Starter Pack, either way. And then you'll also get subscribed to the newsletter. Reply back to that email, or if you're already subscribed, email contact@incredipaul.com with the keyword intern, and you'll be entered into a drawing for free merch. But the key thing is, don't let setbacks keep you from your future. Learn from them, seek out mentorship, seek out guidance, put together a plan to move forward, and you truly can be incredible.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.